Yo, peace family. The podcast that you're about to hear is a remastered version of a podcast that originally we only released for our members. This is our interview with Baba Imhotep Alkebulan. It is by far one of the most powerful interviews that I've done over the past few years, and I definitely think you're going to appreciate it. And so if you want to show your appreciation, if you want more private podcasts, then make sure you become a supporter. We need 1,000 supporters so that we can start breaking ground on our new facility. And so go to panafricanalliance.com/VIP. Look, we've been giving you a lot of value. We do a lot for you all and do it completely free. I personally stepped away from a profitable career as a real estate investor so that I can help you as a seeker, show your support, give back to those who have given so much to you. panafricanalliance.com/VIP. If you're out there giving donations to brothers and sisters who aren't doing anything to help you and not helping us by supporting us at panafricanalliance.vip, then we got to start asking ourselves what's going on with our community. All right. But here's some more free value for you. Baba Imhotep Alkebulan and our interview with him back when we had United Black America Radio up and popping. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you do, leave a comment. Let us know something. Peace.
From the belly of the beast with your host Asad Malik comes a radio show like no other, spreading black consciousness and fighting the forces of white supremacy. This is the most revolutionary show on the airwaves. This is United Black America Radio.
Family, welcome back. And today you are all in for one of the great episodes in the pantheon of United Black America Radio. So family, for 30 years, our guest today has been an ordained minister within the African spiritual community. As the leader of Wose Community Church with locations in Sacramento and Oakland, he's reached so many across the diaspora, across so many generations that I personally feel like his name should be ubiquitous with our discussions on spirituality, thought leadership, and conscious culture. Make no mistake about it, family. The Shepsu, the Agun, the ancestors speak through our Mwalimu today, so it is with great pleasure and humility that I roll out the red, black, and green carpet for Minister Imhotep Alkebulan. Minister Alkebulan, welcome to United Black America Radio. How are you feeling?
Wow, man, what a welcome. Thank you so much. I'm on the red, black, and green, the ice green and gold carpet.
That's right. That's
Give
right.
thanks and praise. I'm very happy to meet you, Assad, and very happy to participate in this podcast today. Thank you for inviting me.
It's truly my honor because I'm already learning a lot. For the family listening, you all don't get to hear it, but we've been going in for I think almost an hour now, just shy of an hour already, and we've covered a lot of ground. But
yes.
Baba, for those who might not know of you and your work, would you just take an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, so my name is Imhotep Alkebulan. I'm a minister of Wose Community Church. Wose Community Church is an African-centered spiritual movement. I've been ordained minister for 30 plus years. And very interested in African-centered thought, liberation of the mind and body, and uplifting our people to our traditional greatness. I hope that's a significant enough introduction.
30 years encapsulated in 30 seconds and never be enough. But today we're talking about understanding the Neteru, understanding the nature. And what we want to do is turn that into modern day applications. We want to make that ancient wisdom practical for what we're doing today. And when I was looking for brothers and sisters in our community, ministers, teachers, and Baba, who have an understanding of this field, your name came up almost immediately. And so I just want to have a free-flowing conversation and talk about these concepts that a lot of brothers and sisters may misinterpret. Could we start off by talking about the concept of the Neteru, the original creation story. Let's just go back in time, the very beginning of our spiritual evolution, and then start going in.
Wow. So
we got it out.
So, I'm going to use Dr. Obenga's definition, and this is coming out of his book, African Philosophy, the Pharaonic Period, which he says originally the word Neteru meant the awakening of higher consciousness within primordial essence, noon, with created beings extending the Creator's creation daily as the sun ceaselessly is born and reborn from its own energy. And he goes on to say that this is a philosophy that exalts life in the name of cosmic order, Mat. So Neteru, we are netters as human beings, spiritual beings having a human experience. The concept has been very confused because, it's been confused by Western thoughts, Western concepts. So when you look at a phenomenon of our ancestors in the Nile Valley, they said that they were polytheistic. They worship gods and goddesses. And so, when they looked at the way things were written and the way that things were done, they said, okay, these people are worshiping gods and goddesses. But when you're talking about a Neteru, it is a word that means principle of divinity. So there's only one God. Let me just use this example. There's only one sun, but if we look in various lakes, rivers, oceans, we see the reflection of the sun. So if we went to all these bodies of water, would we say that there's a multitude of suns? No. We would say that no, they're a reflection of the one sun in this solar system. So in the same way, I'm a Neteru. I'm a reflection of the divinity. Assad is, Dr. Malefi Asante, our scholars, past and present. Those are aspects of the divine. The Neteru emerge out of the noon, which is a primordial essence from which all come out of. In the Indus Valley, they refer to it as Akash.
That's right.
And that is something that's holding us all together. So, we're familiar with the famous group, and it's one of my favorite groups, Earth, Wind, and Fire. It got that name because Maurice White's astrological chart had most of those qualities in it. Water isn't included, but so it's Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, but it's also Akash or the noon. So we're in the noon now. It's what's holding us together.
So the noon is that primordial origin that you were talking about earlier, the primordial waters. Is that right?
Yes. So this is where Ptah emerges out of, which is a word that means self-created. And if you look at his name in glyph, you'll see a glyph that resembles very closely to the DNA, the DNA molecule.
True indeed.
So, and he emerges out of the noon, and then he forms a hill, and then also emerging out of the noon is Atan, and he sits upon top of the hill, and he executes creation. He brings out hidden and its opposite. He brings out boundlessness and its opposite. He brings out two other qualities that are escaping me right now, and I'll come back to them. But there's four pairs of opposites that he brings out, and this, as Dr. Asa Hilliard points out, is the story before the story. These qualities, these essence. So hidden and its opposite, boundlessness and its opposite, infinity and its opposite. Infinity is He, like James Brown. So he was our great singers, are really our shamans if we pay attention. These things come out of the Noon, and then from there they come out of what's called the created Neters. So that is Shu, which is air, Tefnut, which is moisture, Geb, which is earth, Ra, which is fire. And all of these essences are contained within our human body. There are approximately 360 Neteru. Neteru is the plural. And so 180 masculine, 180 feminine that are contained within our human body. I know now, and I don't want to clown it because we were using the word dog, what's up, dog, and now people say what's up, king, they call people kings and queens, but I think in truth we're closer to Neter. We're closer to Neteru, and I'm proposing. This is Imhotep proposal that Neter be the new N-word. And there's a book, actually, it's called Nigger, the Divine Word, written by a sister, and she had a helper who was a linguist, and actually ties the N-word, the negative N-word, back to the Neter, because Neter, if you look at the consonants N, T, R, the T and G are interchangeable. So, I came to this idea by listening to, the news, Niger became Niger, all of a sudden. And I got to thinking, and, that sounds really a lot like Neter, so, and then I found that book, and, they really go into a lot of explanation by that. Unfortunately, I can't remember the author, but the book is called Nigger, the Divine Word. And it goes into things such as, the Sanskrit language, the characters are called Nagari. The people with, what we'd call dreadlocks, which Wayne Chandler and Runoko Rashidi points out, they call them Jata. Those people were called Nagas,
indeed.
Relating to a snake, which, is an allegory relating to wisdom and knowledge. And they held the trident. So getting back to your question, Neter is the awakening of higher consciousness within the primordial essence. And that's what we're trying to do. People that get high, they're trying to get liberated. People that do various things, they're trying to be more. They know instinctively that there's more to this existence than what we see. There's more to just, eating, sleeping, copulating, defecating. Right. They know that there's more to life than that, because it's something innate. I study a gentleman, not an African, but a good scholar, a great scholar nevertheless, who's been studying with Indigenous wisdom keeper in Kemet, and his name is Abdul Hakim Alwan. The scholar that I'm referring to is a guy by the name of Stephen Mailer, and he points out that, so Hakim is saying that really we don't have just 5 senses. We have 360 senses, getting back to the Neters. And so we need to, our job, our errand, as Arumala has sent us down to carry out, is to recognize those Neters within us and uplift our consciousness toward total liberation, where everything will be perceived. If you look at like a lion or a cat or a lot of animals, they can see in the dark.
That's right.
Which means that their perception is higher, and so we need to advance and uplift our perception so that we can see clearly now that Johnny Nash had a song, I Can See Clearly Now, and it is said that Bob Marley really wrote that song, and but he only got like 20 pounds for it. He wasn't famous at the time, and the old story, a lot of our musicians are ripped off, which is going on today in a higher.
True indeed. You've probably forgotten more than what I know, because every now and then I'll chime in with true indeed as if I know what you're talking about. And, I got a page of notes. And we haven't gotten past the first question. See, I do this every time, but I'm going to try and maintain some discipline. And I know the audience kind of appreciates it. So for the brothers and sisters who go through the work study program, we always got to cut it short for brothers and sisters who have to do other things. But here's my chance to pursue these concepts in depth. When it comes to us taking the works of non-Africans in our community and using them as a resource, here's what I have to say to the family, because this discussion has been coming up, right? So once you see the truth in yourself, you can't be lied to or manipulated. Let me say that again, family. Once you see the truth in yourself, you cannot be lied to or manipulated. Now, when brothers and sisters are new to consciousness and they're new to this community and they're just now coming in, what we do is we have them focus on African scholars and thinkers.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because we're trying to help them see the truth within themselves. The whole definition of education, educare, educe, is to draw out that which lies within the student, not to train them, indoctrinate them, and force facts and information and concepts in them. It's to draw out that which lies within them. So once you've drawn out that truth within yourself, you can't be lied to or manipulated. And as has been said in other places, the truth will set you free to pursue ultimate liberation. When we're talking about the Neter and worshiping the Neter and the Neteru, what we're talking about here, and I'm starting to see this, is we're talking about a universal science. Before the episode started, we were talking about dark matter, and then you started talking about Noon, this primordial essence that holds everything together.
That's what I've come to understand, is that when they talk about dark matter, dark energy, they're talking about the Noon.
And then you're talking about Ptah, you're talking about DNA, you're talking about Aten, you're talking about polarity.
Yes.
There are just so many different analogies in here. And I heard you talking about singers, and you referred to them as shaman. And I definitely want to touch on the power of sound. We've touched on that concept, and it seems to be recurring when we were talking to a number of different scholars from the Yoruba tradition. But we see not just similarities, but we see the same concept expressed in Kemet and other indigenous societies. Bobby, you were about to go in? Go right ahead.
No, I was saying that I would like to use this example, and I'm African-centered, but not Afro-silly.
Speak on it.
So it's just like a tree. A tree uses water, air, earth, sun, and it grows up and it doesn't become any of those things. As we were discussing earlier, we need to look at, what's going on in the Western world. We need to know what our indigenous intellectual and spiritual thought was. And we need to use all of those things to better ourselves. I would love to drive a car that was built, designed, and sold by Africans. But right now I have to drive a Western car because that's what's existing at the time, otherwise I couldn't get to various places. The minerals that I'm using now to talk to you come out of Africa. There's a mineral, actually a combination of minerals. It's called coltan, and 80% of it comes out of Africa. I was talking to somebody the other day, I can't remember who it was, and 60% of it comes out of the Congo.
That's right. That's right.
You cannot build an iPhone, a cell phone, a computer without this mineral. You know, it comes from Africa. You know, the design. You know, was it a European that came up with the cell phone? Was it an African that came up with the cell phone? The whole thing. I was privileged to meet. He's been called the Bill Gates of Africa. His name is Philip Ameg-Wale. And he is not the father of the internet, but a father of the internet. And he's from Nigeria, and he grew up here. I think he came to this country when he was 15. Brilliant guy. 1989, he daisy chained supercomputers together to, you know, make like 80 billion calculations per second. That figure is probably off, but it's something astronomical. It was astronomical then. Today, not so much, but he provided the building blocks for what we know now as the internet. So I think that we need to examine everything in the Hosea. It says in the book of Ankh-Shaki, it says examine everything. Don't think that you know everything, and if it's useful, continue to use it. And if it's not, just like our digestive system, and this goes back to the Neteru. If you look at Anpu, the Greeks call it Anubis. He's on the scale. And Suardiluvis points out that he also represents digestion, because the zoomorphic type of the jackal, they know when to bury carrion and know when to dig it up and it still be nourishing.
That's right. Jackals hunt, they bury their food, and then they come back to it and finish it up later on.
Yes. And so in the same way, just anything, this podcast, anything you read, you're going to take the good and let out the stuff that needs to be let out.
True indeed.
And that's what people need to do. And at our church, and I'm not proselytizing, I just, this is the point where I come from. And even people don't even like to use, among our members don't even like to use that word church. I like to keep it in because we're already so weird to the general public, dealing with Netters and Amun-Ra, Patan.
For now, because if we're doing our job, then
eventually,
the cream always rises to the top.
Well, I mean, we've really come a long ways. In 1968, there was a picture of Black Jesus on Ebony magazine, and there were Black pastors that were going to boycott and try to put Ebony magazine out of business for putting that on the cover of Black Jesus on the magazine. But now you can go into many of our places, Shrine of the Black Madonna, Church of the Black Messiah, and other places that we don't even know. There's a place in Atlanta. It's called First African Church. I have some dear friends that go to that church, and when you go in the church, they have a huge ankh in the church. So we've really come a long way. So again, I think that there's good and bad and everything, and we need to be able to discern that. So in our movement and we're using Stolen Legacy as one of our holy books. He has the concept of the 10 virtues: control of thought, control of action, steadfastness of purpose, faith in the ability of the master to teach you the truth. And he goes on, and the last two are cultivate the ability to distinguish right from wrong, cultivate the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. And those two are very important. And so when you think of the concept of, as we were talking earlier, I can't remember if we were on air or off air, but, all of the information that is being put out there, and you don't know what is true. We need to cultivate the ability to distinguish right from wrong.
Absolutely.
And we need to cultivate the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. I like to also, in addition to using movies as allegories, I also like to use different singers and songwriters. And Ziggy Marley, I think it was about their third album, The Melody Makers, Conscious Party. He has a song there are many stories, both old and new. What is true? And that's where we're at. We need to be able to distinguish right from wrong and the real from the unreal, be able to determine what is true and what is untrue.
And I would like to see more of that intellectual discourse going on, because that's how we do that with things like debates. There's a lot of social media distribution going on, and a lot of our brothers and sisters are loath to get into the comments section. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You don't want to get into the comments if you hear something that's incorrect, but it's important that we do so, because that's how we discern the real from the fake. And, you know, you like to use movies as allegories. So do I. Earlier, you were talking about the Congo and the minerals that we're using to communicate. Pause. We can go back in time and talk about how the ancients used minerals to communicate as well. But I feel like that'll be a whole different show. And I would have to pay you for that one, because that would be a university level course. You're talking about tantalite and columbite.
Yes.
These are two minerals that only come from the Congo, and they're combined to create a super mineral. And I believe it's called coltan.
Yes, it is. Yes, yes.
The connection I want to make here is there was a movie that was recently released. And in that movie, there was a mineral named vibranium. And vibranium was the source of the wealth of this imaginary kingdom called Wakanda.
Yes.
And everyone is like, why can't we create our own Wakanda? Why can't we have our own Wakanda? And I don't know if I want to say the title of it. I'm going to say it anyway. They ain't listening. You know, Black Panther. And y'all can sit there if you want it.
You know what? I just want to say, but please don't lose your thought. I've been waiting for that movie for 50 years.
You say that again, Bob.
I've been waiting for that movie for 50 years. You know, as a youth growing up, I used to read comic books, and I used to read Thor, and I used to read, Spider-Man, and all those Fantastic Four, and all those. And I never really saw myself in there. And then I was reading a Fantastic Four episode, and Black Panther is mentioned. He's a Black Studies professor. That's like his cover, and but he's really the king of this technologically advanced civilization. So I've been waiting for 50 years for that movie to come out, and I thought it was a very well done movie. Of course, you know, there are flaws in it, but there's flaws in everything. But I think just overall, it was an outstanding movie. Is there any propaganda in there? Of course there is. If you as the listener or the viewer wanted to watch that, wanted to change the story in that movie, you can. That's what Spike Lee does to me. Every time Spike Lee makes a movie and I don't agree with it, what he's saying to me simultaneously is, you don't like it, you make a movie. And so my perfect ending would have been Warmonger and T'Challa working together. That
is my perfect ending too, and that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing here. Yes. I want to emphasize to the audience, because everybody, we need to build Wakanda. Why can't we have our own Wakanda? You have your own Wakanda, but will you fight for it? Yes. Because right now, the minerals that we're using to communicate are the same minerals that have made, we were talking about this, and I don't remember if it was on or off air as well. We were talking about Apple becoming the first $1 trillion company and Amazon on their heels. One of the major sources of revenue that Amazon relies on, and the community probably doesn't know anything about this. You all think Amazon makes its money selling books and the things that you buy on Amazon. That's the tip of the iceberg. AWS, Amazon Web Services, is powering a large part of the internet, and it's growing. It's beneath the surface. That's where their money comes from. And AWS is built on distributed servers, and those servers are made with coltan. You have your own Wakanda. Those trillions and trillions of dollars in revenue that these companies are generating by perpetrating conflict on the African continent and in the Congo. The Congo is being raped. Yes. There's a genocide that's going on.
Africa is being
true indeed. As few as 6 million, and that's the conservative number. As few as 6 million, and as many as 12 million people have lost their lives in the Congo alone since the end of the Black Power era, when Patrice Lumumba, the first democratically elected president of the Congo, was assassinated in a CIA overthrow. The same CIA that's portrayed positively in the movie Black Panther, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
And since then, there have been a series of dictators who have been handpicked and put in place who perpetrate conflict in the Congo. They let these mercenaries, and I call them mercenaries intentionally because these are groups that are hired by groups that are paid by the Apples and the Amazons of the world to make sure that coltan and its price is kept low. And by low, I mean slave wage labor. Right?
Yes.
So that they can maintain their levels of profit. So you think about blood minerals like diet. Go ahead, Bob, because we off on one.
Okay. So I tend to do this to people, and but even before then, even before Patrice Lumumba was elected, you had King Leopold, going back to 1884 and 1886. The Berlin Conference and the Brussels Conference, where Africa was carved up into that jigsaw puzzle, and King Leopold said, "Hey, I want my piece," and took over the Congo. And first it was for rubber, and they would cut the hands off of people that didn't bring in enough rubber. And the people were terrorized that way, and then after that, it was they would do the same thing with people that didn't bring in enough copper. So the Congo has been raped and ruined for centuries now. A lot of times we don't like to deal with non-African scholars, but even Mark Twain wrote a book called King Leopold's Soliloquy, where he talked about that. And back then, in those times, it was a movement, to free the Congo that's analogous to the anti-apartheid movement that we experienced in the 80s and 90s. So the Congo has been in conflict for a long time, but I wanted to get to this point, and I talked about this on another show. And, I found out about this shaman, this Sangoma, this Sanyusi that's in South Africa by the name of Credo Mutwa. Are you familiar with him?
Not at all. Please enlighten us.
Okay, so Credo Mutwa is an indigenous wisdom keeper. And I read this about 18 years ago, and I just found it. It just resurfaced just after viewing the Black Panther, which I've seen twice. Okay, and plan to see it again, and plan to use it as a study. It's going to be a case study for years to come, So, people are going to use it, positive or negatively, for years to come. But he writes, he's giving a lecture, and I just want to read the first paragraph. I don't want to, belabor the point or bore your audience. But he says this, before human beings were created on this planet, there existed a very wise race of people known as the Imani Ukala. These people had come from the constellation known to white people as Orion. They had inhabited our earth for thousands and thousands of years, and that before they had left our earth to return once more to the sacred Spider constellation, they made a great evacuation under the earth beneath the Missouri Mountains, the mountains of the moon, deep in the bowels of Mother Earth. The Imani Ukala built a city of copper buildings, a city with a wall of silver around it, a city built at the huge mountain of pure crystal, the mountain of knowledge, the mountain from which all knowledge on earth comes, and a mountain to which all knowledge on earth ultimately returns. This old woman told me that her grandmother had told her this story while she was still a virgin of some 15 years or so, undergoing initiation into the mysteries and culture of the Bahutu people. The Hutu people, Bahutu. The old woman went on to tell me that many generations ago, there came to the land of the Bahutu a group of little yellow-skinned men who wore colorful robes and strangely brightly colored hats. These men, she said, had come in search of the great city of knowledge, which they had heard many, many years ago, stands in the earth under the mountains of the moon, the Missouri mountain range. And Dr. Yosef Ben Yekanin said in many of his lectures that the Kemetic people said, we came from the beginning of the mountain of the moon where the Neteru happy dwells. And mountain of the moon is the Missouri mountain range. So that is, something that's in ancient lore. I'm not saying that that's the gospel, but these traditions are already in Africa. And if we look at just even the country of Gabon, in 1972, France received a shipment of uranium that had already been used. And they went to find out where this uranium had come from. They went to Gabon and they went to a place called Oklu. And what they found there was what they say is, quote unquote, a natural nuclear reactor. Now, that's the only place on Earth where a natural nuclear reactor is. It's a place that's a mile by a half a mile. It's ecologically sound. And so what that means is that people living in Africa, in West Africa, were using uranium. And I think the conservative estimate, for the life is like 500,000 years. So we don't know how old our people are. We are just scratching the surface. We are emptying the ocean out with a teaspoon, with the knowledge of our people, our greatness. In 2000 Season says they want to know how old we are. We'll point to the sky and let them count the stars, and then we'll take them to the ocean and let them count each grain of sand, and then and then we'll take them to the ocean and let them count each drop of water. That's how old our ancestry, our people are, and we're not on linear time; we're on cyclic time. And so, when the Perneters, the house of the Neters, which are called pyramids today, were built, we're talking like 20,000 years ago. When we're talking about the statue which we call the Sphinx, which many of us call Horem Akhet, Horus of the Two Horizons, or even older, Tefnuti, that goes back 50,000 years. If we go to South Africa, there's cities in South Africa that have been found that are like 200,000 years. So,
Indeed.
So, Wakanda, it's a fable, it's a fantasy, but it's based on some type of truth that lies deep in Africa.
Baba, I don't even know where to start, but let me start here. Okay. When we're talking about cyclic time,
yes,
we know that time is cyclic, and we know that this is something that modern science is just now catching up to. Right. Mm-hmm. So there have been great efforts to try and determine the shape of the universe. Right. Yes. And so what scientists do know, based on what they've studied thus far, is that the universe and the dark matter contained therein is not flat. It's wavy. Furthermore, if we go all the way out to, and there are two horizons, right? There's there's what they call the event horizon. It's the boundary that we cannot see beyond, but there's also the particle horizon, which is the definable limits of the material universe, not the immaterial universe, the material universe. And based on the projections that they have, our universe is shaped like a donut. It's not flat. It doesn't expand completely outward. And so if we understand the universe to be shaped like a donut, if you start at point A at the top of the donut and you circle all the way around and you return to point A, having traveled through that entire donut, you've traveled through a cyclical procession. In fact, there are a few points in the universe that you can travel through. And because of their connection to other points in the universe, you can move through those points a lot faster than time. So we're talking about faster than the speed of light travel. And you all can go and check out that new movie that just came out, Ava DuVernay, Wrinkle in Time. There are a lot of concepts there. But what I want to talk about, there are so many different places we can go, Baba. See, this is what I want the audience to understand. When you sit at the feet of masters, you can learn more in an hour-long conversation then years of misdirected self-study, then years of mental masturbation. So you were talking about our great ancestors, our great Shepsu. You were talking about how old they were. And true indeed, we don't realize just how old we are, just how far back our lineage stretches, because think about the modern era that we're living in now. Arguably, the modern era started about maybe 3,000 years ago. Now, you all may think that the modern era started with the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, so-called Industrial Revolution, which happened at the beginning of the 20th century, end of the 19th century. But we can call this the modern era. So for 3,000 years, we've gone from the fall of Kemet to now, speaking to each other using these minerals. 3,000 years is a flash in the pan with regard to the entire material link of human history that we have. And we can touch items that are 500,000 years old and say, okay, well, this is identifiably human. Imagine how many times civilization has risen, exceeded the level of technological advancement that we're at in our infantile 3,000 years, right? So if you have a civilization that lasted for 5,000 years, and that was an unbroken 5,000 years because our period of time has been broken, stupidity like the Dark Ages, imagine if all that technology had been used to advance human civilization, right? Where we would be. And that's not to say that we didn't reach those levels and left, but that's kind of off on a sidebar. You were talking about our great Shepsu. Yes. This is a concept that we've touched on in the past, but I'd really like to examine further. For brothers and sisters who have been rocking with us for a while, and for members of United Black America, you know that we talk about our ancestors or the Igun frequently. Baba, could you introduce the audience to the concept of Shepsu, our great ancestors, and what this means for the practical application of what we're discussing today?
Well, you know, we always deal with that concept of, you know, I stand on the shoulders of those that have gone before me. I was watching a 60-minute program, and it was dealing with the whole notion of, you know, DNA, and, you know, you're able to, you know, take a swab, which I'm very suspect of, and send it someplace, and they're going to tell you where you came from. Reminds me of an old Richard Pryor show where he's doing "I'm the Come From Man," you know, and you give me your money and I'll tell you where you come from. And what they were showing, they showed a woman who, Leslie Stahl was doing it, and they said, okay, we got this study, you know, and you come from the Mende tribe, and you have some of this and that. And she was very excited. She loved it. And then Leslie Stahl brings out another report that says she was from some other tribe, ethnic group. And then there was like 3 different or 4 different studies that all said different things. And then they had a geneticist on who said that we all have, like, I mean, and he kind of stopped there, but it's actually more. We have 256 great grandparents. You know, think about that. So the ancestors are not something that has gone on. The ancestors are dwelling within us right now. Your ancestors, your elders can tell you something. So when I read, I paid a lot of attention to Dr. Ben. I paid a lot of attention. I listened to his speeches. I read his books. I paid a lot of attention to Malcolm X. I looked at his life, observed what I thought were the pros and negatives in his life, even up to the last minute. Look at the great civilizations of our people and see where they were great and where they weren't. I kind of disagree with some people. Like, okay, now the Black Panther movie came out. Now people are pushing, maybe we should make a movie on Mansa Musa. To me, Mansa Musa is the one that really started Arabs looking at us and say, oh, all these people got all this gold. Let's go over there and get it. You know, that notified them. You're taking all this gold and you're marching from Mali, into Egypt, destabilizing the world economy, dropping some gold off there, going to Saudi Arabia, dropping some gold off there. And now Mali is one of the poorest countries in the world.
Baba, can I emphasize to the community that if you travel to Mali and you throw around the name Mansa Musa, to this very day, his name is maligned in the very country that we all celebrate him for, because he destabilized the Malian economy. He took all of that gold and he basically carried it away. And I think there are definitely lessons that we can learn from that as well. But when it comes to the Igun, our great Shepsu, I think there's so much that we can and should learn. And there's so much power that we should be harnessing, flowing in the rivers of life that run through our veins, our physical direct connection to our ancestors that we are overlooking in favor of what some people call mystery gods. And here's a point that I've struggled with, Baba, and I want to throw this out to you. And this is something that a member of our work study program threw out to me. I talk a lot about the fact that there's data in your DNA, right? Obviously. And this is something that computer science is trying to emulate. Right? They're trying to take the natural, turn it into the unnatural to figure out more about the natural, which is ridiculous. And so we might need to check our children on that. But I talk a lot about that data, and we know that data can become corrupted. For those of us here who were subject to the transatlantic slave trade, I'm not talking about the brothers and sisters who were already here, the early explorers who, some of them also came from Mali, and we can talk more about that later.
Sure.
But for those of us who were brought here via the transatlantic slave trade and other slave routes, who were subject to rape, miscegenation, whether forced or persuaded, who are mixed, does that corrupt that data, that pure, unbroken link that we have with our great Shepsu, our Igun, our ancestors? Does that mean that we're cut off from that Akashic record that's contained in our DNA? What does that mean for us? If we can't call ourselves pure Africans or pure people, then what does that mean for the data that is encapsulated in our DNA, Bob?
Well, I think the root of all humanity is African. The general theories now are that, at one point, Africans went into Europe and they were caught in an ice age, and then their phenotype changed. So they did not need, it was colder, it was darker. They did not need their pigmentation shield. And so, by having great concentrations of melanin, Dr. Sebi says it's not melanin. He says it's carbon, but, I don't want to get into that debate, but be that as it may. So lost the pigmentation shield, the nasal cavity got narrower, for breathing, etc. And the conditions were harsh.
By the way, for the audience listening, I'm going to include links in the show notes to everything that we're talking about. But if you want a good, solid point of reference, check Anta Diop's book, Civilization or Barbarism, breaks down the origins of the Grimaldi man, migrations out of Africa, and genotypical and phenotypical adaptations that these original people from Africa went through, that created who we call the Albion today. Baba, please continue.
All of those changes happened, and then they came back onto the world. So they came up in a harsher environment. But really, and I borrow this phrase from Runoko Rashidi: we as Africans go from snow to crow in terms of our phenotypical appearance. So you can go to South Africa right now, and you can find people that would be called "quote unquote" light-skinned people. But they have never seen a European. You can go to various places in East Africa, and their features, their nose isn't broad, their nose is thinner, and they've never seen a European. It's just we have contained within our DNA all the possibilities of human appearance. Slanted eyes, broad nose, narrow nose, thick lips, narrow lips, all within, our African. So I can't say that, because of this tragic act that happened to many of us, imposed on, or now we seem to be. Have you noticed? I'm kind of getting off the subject, but have you noticed? And I mentioned this to my wife. Have you noticed that many of the TV commercials now are showing mixed marriages and mixed couples and mixed kids? And I don't think that that's an accident. That there's something that's trying to be inserted into our consciousness. I like what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing says. She says that we need to make crystal black as the highest standard of beauty, but not diminish any of the other shades. Because within us, there's a poem that was written by this brother in Oakland, and that I've committed to memory, and his name is Marvin X, and he says, "I am the Mexican." It's called African History is World History, World History is African History. And one of the stanzas says, "I am the Mexican, for I am mixed with all men and women, and all men and women are mixed with me." I'm the father and mother. No, this is me talking. But I am the father and mother of all life on this planet. So, so I can't say that, okay, because this person, okay, Bob Marley's father was white, but who was more African-centered than him? I mean, so many people. If you go by phenotype, who was more African-centered, Sheikh Anta Diop or Dr. Asa Hilliard? Who was more African-centered, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima or Dr. Ben? Or Dr. Obinga? So again, those are things that are imposed on us by Westerners. We need to break those chains, unchain our brains, and just in our thinking, and just accept who we are. If our hair is nappy, accept it. That's beautiful. That's the shape of DNA. If our hair is straight, just go with it. If our skin is light, that's what happened. If our skin is dark, embrace it. It's a natural suntan. You're not affected by the sun.
True indeed. And I'm so glad you emphasized that. You touched on a number of different things that have become canon in our organization's culture. So I'm either we're on the same frequency, or
there's one spirit. There's one spirit, Assad. There's one spirit, and he's running. They are running. It is running. Whatever your concept is, running through all of us. And so this is what I noticed, like at our church, we have within our service a thing called this historical tribute, where we take 12 to 15 minutes just focusing on a particular subject, and it could be a current event or it could be an ancient event. And do you know that there are so many times where the person giving the historical tribute and the person that's giving the message, the spiritual message, is the same, and those people have not talked. They haven't called each other throughout the week, because I know that many times I'm one of those people, either giving the historical tribute or bringing the message, and we end up saying the same thing. So there's one spirit. I'm so happy to meet you, and I'm so happy that you've reached out to me, and we just met today.
That's right.
and we're saying the same things. I'm when I get off the phone, I'm going to read as much as I can on your beautiful organization. But there's only one spirit, Sometimes me and my wife, we wake up having the same dream. We'll wake up and she'll And I'll say, did you see those people? And she said, yeah. Did you smell that food? And you know, and
you picked the right one, Baba. You picked the right one. Definitely send her our love.
We've been married. We've been together for 38 years, and we've been married in September. We've been married for 32 years.
Whew. And that's a whole other show. I mean, we have a saying, Black love is Black power. And one of the hardest things that we deal with as a community, and I'm talking about UBA as a community. And by the way, this is the beginning of a long journey together. Yes. I'm thinking already about the trip that I'm about to come. You know, I like to get away from the East Coast every now and then. Shout out to my East Coast family.
Come visit us. Come visit us.
I'm on my way, Baba.
But, our anniversary. We have two churches. One in Oakland, and the anniversary is December 7th. And in Sacramento, the anniversary is the third Sunday in July. So, you know, if nothing else, try to make one of those times. We invite you, and we invite those that are within the sound of our voice. There's a religious movement in Los Angeles. I know you've heard of it, Karast Unity, and they come and celebrate our anniversary with us in Wose, Oakland, in December. So we're very privileged to have them, and reached out to them, and I've made a promise, and I hope I'll be able to keep it this year, where I want to journey down there and fellowship with them.
Baba, I wanted to talk to you about sound, music, its role in spiritual development, personal development, healing, its relationship to what we're doing and talking about right here. And I know you have some thoughts with regard to that. So please share with us, Baba.
Well, Wayne Chandler wrote a wonderful book. It's called Ancient Future. And in that, one of the chapters is dealing with vibration. Everything is vibration and sound. If we look at the many of the creation stories, it comes out with the creator creating just through the spoken word. You know, in the beginning was the Word, and Word was God, and Word was with God.
That's right.
The so-called Memphite theology, which was on the Shabaka stone, said that Ptah conceived everything in his heart and mind, and through the power of the spoken word, he brought in creation. There have been many studies done on water and frequency. Maybe about 100 years ago, maybe not that long. The frequency that was used for music was changed from 432 to 440. 440 is disharmonic. 432 is more in relationship with the way the earth is going, the way our solar system, which our bodies.
When we set equinoxes, 432 pops up. When we look at our DNA, 432 pops up again.
Yes. So vibration and creation go hand in hand. Just you can walk into a room sometimes and the vibes aren't right. You know, you can pick up on that. So our ancient ancestors along the Nile used to heal with sound. They were able to raise those monstrous stones in Giza through the power of sound. It's called the Shisk disc. This is in the Cairo Museum, and it's referred to as a lotus flower. But the indigenous wisdom keepers in Kemet tell that no, it spun at a certain way, and it created a sound which was able to lift those monstrous stones in place, with such precision that you can't duplicate it now, because our consciousness isn't at that vibratory rate. There was a brother wrote a book in 1980, Victor Beasley, called Your Electromagnetic Body, your electro-vibratory body, which he's explaining the chakras and your whole thing, our whole being is about vibration, sound, frequency. when I was growing up, Ella Fitzgerald was in a commercial where she could shatter a glass with her voice. And now, if you look at modern medicine, some of them are actually able to shatter cancer cells, and
that's right.
Through vibration. You've heard of ultrasound. They're able to look into your body through sound, and in Stephen Mailer's book, The Land of Osiris, he points out how at Saqqara there are places where the priest would go and heal people through sound. They would sit, they would lay on a slab, and he would look in through a niche, and he was able to see what was going on with that person and able to heal them. So sound and vibration is very important. Sound and vibration is our essence. I was on NASA's website one time, and I saw this thing. It said the singing sun. Click here to see how the sound of the sun. And they had put all these microphones and different ways to capture the vibration, and when you click on it, the sun is saying and I was so excited. I came home and I told my wife, I said I was listening. I said I went to this website and said the singing sun, and guess what the sun was putting out into the universe. And I said it's and she looked at me, because women are more intuitive. She says, well, what do you expect it to sound like?
And as you're speaking, Baba, here's the connection that I'm making. Sound is vibration. Vibrations are waves.
Yes.
And earlier when you mentioned noon,
yes,
I was flipping through one of my scrolls.
Yes.
And the written representation of noon.
Yes.
Wave.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I believe that, when you talk about dark matter and dark energy, and because that's what's holding the universe together.
That's right.
That's what's holding the universe together. The stars that we see in the sky, if you're in the country, if you're in the city, you hardly see any stars. But or if you go, the various places in Africa, you see all these stars. But that's only 1/10 of the universe. The rest of it is this black matter that we can't see.
That's right.
And that is the noon. That is the Akash. That is the vibration that Wayne Chandler is pointing out in his book, Ancient Future.
I think that brings us full circle, Baba. It all came together divinely. That came together divinely. So, Baba, as we wrap up today, could you give us some suggestions for making this practical? And I ask this question because so many members of our audience say, well, the study of the Neteru, that's all fine. And metaphysics, yeah, that's cool, but I got to eat today. I got to go to work today, right? I'm bogged down by modern problems, and all this esoteric and ancient wisdom doesn't really apply to me. This is recreational for me. So could you help us make it real? Could you help us with some practical applications? And then we can wrap it up with any information that you feel like we might have skipped over that you want to go deeper in. Tell us how we can support you. Tell us about what you have going on and coming up. And let's go ahead and connect these two communities.
All right. So I think that you have to meditate, and it doesn't seem practical in this material world, but everything comes out of everything comes from the invisible to the visible. And the way that you bring that out is going inside. So if you're attracted to a netter, say you're a netter, you really vibe with, or you are really interested in a set, just really concentrate on that when you go inside, and just consider all the attributes about a set, and repeat that name over and over. The same thing with Ptah, the same thing with Amen, when if you would, when you get ready to go to sleep, if you can witness the point between sleeping and waking, it'll be difficult at first, but as you practice over and over again, just before you go to sleep, if you can witness the point between wake and sleep, you will see your life expand. If you practice visualization, if you can visualize, what you're trying to achieve in the material world, everything that we see comes from the inside out. All inventions, we think that we come up with the idea ourselves, but no, it's in the Akash, it's in the noon. Everything that we can conceive is already there. We just have to take time to go inside. So breathing, just noticing the ins and outs of your breath, just the ins and out of your breath. If you could just do that for 20 minutes a day, you will see how much you have gained and how much you have grown, and how much stronger you have become, and how much aware, and how much more perceptive you will be. And it starts with going inside. So some people do transcendental meditation, which is good. I have a very good friend in Atlanta. He has his PhD in biopsychiatry. His name is Dr. Kofi Kandwani. I've dubbed him the Minister of Silence. So some people use that. Some people use that form of meditation. The Indigenous wisdom keepers in Kemet use this simple meditation. The light surrounds me. The light passes through me. I am the light. Just dwelling with that every day. And you have to do it consistently. People that want to develop great muscle mass, they don't go to the gym like once a month or once a quarter. They do it every day to see results, and that's what you'll have to do every day to see results. People that practice the Odu Ifa, they can count. We didn't say anything about the Orishas, but the Orishas are the netters.
True indeed.
The Orishas are on the netters. So I don't have all the answers. I'm not a self-realized master, but I'm striving for liberation. I'm striving for self-realization. I'm trying to know who I am. We used to think, and this is coming out of Stolen Legacy, man, know thyself. But that was written on the Temple of Delphi. It's really, I know what is in the Kemetic, or I know what is in my heart. I talked about, you talked about the ancestors. My mother's an ancestor. I talked about my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers. But my mother, her phrase to me was, you've got to get your heart right. So, and when we look at the judgment scene, and we see on one side of the scale the ma'at feather, the ostrich feather, on the other side the heart, which is the essence, we need to get that in balance. And so, again, going inside, there are various ways to do it, but we need to be consistent. I just want to close with this story that I read a long time. It was a story given by Satya Sai Baba of India, who many consider an avatar. He told this story of a man that was looking for water in a field, and he dug down 5 feet and didn't get any water, and he came up and dug down in another hole 5 feet, and he dug down in another hole 5. He did that about 15 times, in the same field. And then the last time, he dug down 15, 20 feet, and then he hit water. And so the moral of that story is, if you had dug down far enough the first time, you wouldn't have wasted all that energy in all those other holes. And so, so we need to we need to get serious about our spiritual development. Again, we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
True indeed. Baba, we have 12 councils that our organization is divided into. Mm-hmm. So each council focuses on one of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's areas of life, and then we also have 3 executive councils. So for the family listening for the first time, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing wrote a book called The ISIS Papers, and in it she talks about the areas of life. And of course, this is in tandem with Dr. Neely Fuller: economics, entertainment, education, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and warfare. And so we have a council that is focused on each of them. And I believe that the Kefra Council is most applicable to our conversation. Even though we're talking about metaphysics, we're talking about a lot of different concepts. But I would like to extend an honorary membership as the leader of our Kefra Council to you. And so what we'll do is we'll send out a certificate. We're going to lay our resources at your feet, and we're going to work to bring your work to more of our people. So if you would accept that invitation, we would be honored to have you as a member.
I would, and I'm honored that you consider me for such a great facility and position and honor. And I'll do, as my friend, I mentioned him, Kofi Kandwani, Dr. Kofi Kandwani. I just work here. So I'm ready to help you, Assad, grounders, bunts, pop flies, so whatever I can do to help, and certainly glad to have met you via Facebook, and now we're able to talk, and one day I'm sure we'll meet face to face.
Oh, one day soon.
And I love what you're doing, and love to the people that are listening, people that are trying to gain more wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in African-centered thought, African-centered spirituality, and certainly will be glad to work with you in that capacity that you see me in.
True indeed. Before we wrap it up, could you just throw out your website, your contact information, and for those who would like to follow up with you directly?
Yes. So our website is Wose, WOSE, SAC, SAC.com or .net or .org. And so that's our website. We are on Facebook. So you can do a search for Wose, WOSE on your search engines. And there's a Wose, a Facebook page for Wose Sacramento and Wose Oakland. Wose Oakland has a wonderful school. It's called Ile Omade. They produce great young people coming out of there. One person because it only goes up to 8th grade, but when he went into high school, when he got ready to graduate, he had a 5.0 grade point average. So. Just
melanated genius.
Yeah, and you have dedicated teachers showing love to this, and having a really good relationship with the students. And so that's very important. Coming up, something big that's coming up for us in August is a Marcus Garvey festival, and that's August 17th, the weekend of August 17th. We're going to be having that here in Sacramento, and we do things month to month. On the 3rd Sunday, we have Spiritual Food Sunday, where we have a special speaker come in and just focus. There's no preaching, there's little teaching, but it's more focusing just on spiritualness, going inside. One Sunday we might have a person come in to do Tai Chi, another person will come in to do Tibetan bowls, another person will come in and do meditation, a lot of the healing arts. We had a sister that is a acupuncturist and acupressurist to come in. And so each Sunday, on the 3rd Sunday, is Spiritual Food Sunday, that we try to have that. And then our regular Sunday services at Wose Sacramento, 4311 Ottawa Avenue in Sacramento, 10:30 to 12:30. Of course, we always go into extra innings, so you might not get out to 1:15. And in Wose Oakland, the services are from 10:30 to 12:30, and they're they're a little bit more progressive. They are online. If you do a search on the Wose Oakland's website, they stream their services, and so the messages you can go online and see. They have a great minister there. Their senior minister is a brother by the name of Baba Greg Hodge, who's minister in training there. Sister Tracy Brown. Myself as a minister in Wose, Sacramento, Imhotep Alkebulan. We have also a minister, Alicia Lovelady Teasley, and we have great elders and members here. We're not a large church or large spiritual movement, but we do big things in our community locally, and try to reach out to our people statewide and nationally and internationally.
True indeed. True indeed. Well, you absolutely have a friend in this organization, and you may not be doing things big yet, but I see big things coming, and they need to, because our people are desperately in need of what it is that Wose is doing. So, Baba Alkebulan, again, fantastic interview. I can say without a shadow of a doubt, we've done some great interviews with some legends in our community, and some of them are no longer with us, like Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, peace be upon her. But I feel like this is going to be in the pantheon of great interviews. I'd like to go ahead and extend an invitation to you right now to come back, and we can work out the logistics on Facebook. But
I'll be glad to come back. I'll be glad to come back.
Fantastic interview. Fantastic interview.
Family, that is a wrap. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. And if you want more podcasts like this or free resources that we provide as a community service, make sure you join our email list. Go to panafricanalliance.com/subscribe. And if you're ready to take it to the next level with Black Business Builder tools to launch and build your website and your side hustle online, more than 900,000 premium WordPress themes, instrumentals, high-quality video effects, and intros. If you want access to the 5 Elements Mastery course, the Keys to Black Consciousness course, secret podcasts, PDFs, and an opportunity to connect with a much larger community, then go to panafricanalliance.com/VIP and see what we have to offer. Become a paid member. We absolutely need your support. In the meantime, remember our Pan-African Code of Conduct: to do no harm to your own people, help your people when they are in their time of need, and above all else, hold the line, hold the line. As Khalid Abdul Muhammad always said, hold the damn line, and I will build with you all next time. Abibi Fahodie.